Hey everybody, it's Pat and welcome back to another video. We're going to skip the YouTube formalities and get straight to the point. This is part 2 of the making of Runaway. In part 1, which I will link above, I showed you how I recorded the performance for Runaway in my jam space, and then at the end of that video I explained how I just simply mixed the song at home, and that's what I want to look at today. So I wanted to put a disclaimer out there that I am not a professional mixer or an engineer. I don't consider myself any of those things, but I like mixing and producing and mastering stuff. I like the feeling of recording something and then just building the whole song myself. So this is what I attempted to do. I've done this before in the past, but a lot of albums that I've put out with my other bands was either recorded, mixed, or produced or engineered by other people. This song I wanted to do by myself, so I recorded it myself and I mixed it myself. So if you're a seasoned mixer or a seasoned engineer and you listen to this song and you look at the plugins I use and the techniques I use and you think it's rubbish, please, let me know in the comments and maybe I can send you the tracks and you can do a better job and you can teach me something, and that would be amazing. But for you, other people who maybe know nothing about mixing or want to know more or just want to know how I mixed this song, this video is going to be perfect for that. So I'm going to play the song and we'll look at all the different tracks that we have going on here and how I organized the project. I put the guitars first and then the vocals and then the software instruments, and we'll look at the different instruments I used and the different voices. This is all vocals. We'll listen to that in solo as well, and yeah, we'll just listen to it and I'll explain a bit what my idea was behind the song and the producing the track, and we'll see where it takes us. So let's have a listen and we'll start talking, I guess. Let's go.
I've tried to leave it all behind. Maybe I
So here we have the two guitar tracks. This is one performance, mic'd with two microphones. So the AKG Perception 420, which is pretty much the only decent mic I own. It's by no means a professional microphone, but it's been the mic that it's the mic I've been using for years and years to make demos and record vocals at home and all that. And I also have this really old Sanyo microphone that was forgotten by a bandmate in the jam space that I've been using, and this is what I used to mic the guitar. So I had one at the fretboard, and the Sanyo was closer to the body of the guitar, and I ended up using the AKG a bit more in the verses because it's a better mic and it sounds better. And then when it comes to the choruses, I ended up using the Sanyo a bit more on a left-right here. So we have a center guitar for the verses, and then when the chorus hits, you actually see the second guitar coming in, which is the same part played but sort of hard panned, and it gives this sort of extra depth or weight to the guitar. So let's have a listen to that. So you can really see that, have just this one guitar here. And then as we come in, you're going to hear the other ones fade in. Adds all this extra depth, and the guitars are really wet. If we have a look at the mixer, there's some reverb in here or something, and I really like using just the basic Silververb from Logic, and you see that it's quite wet. It's at 55% here, and if we just listen to these guys. So really kind of a low cut here, and removed some of the frequencies that I didn't find pleasing. You can see that I like to subtract frequencies when I EQ, and this is what I did here. And you can see that the other guitars kind of have their own little EQs, and some of the frequencies are accented. But I'm not using any particular techniques or anything like that. I'm just going with what I think sounds good. So those are the guitars. Let's keep going.
are nothing but distant memories. I need change, I have to run away. I've tried.
So at this point, what we have is a guitar, a second guitar that comes in for the chorus, and just a vocal. And for the second verse, I really wanted it to be almost nothing, like really minimalist, and just one vocal, one guitar. So let's have a look at the vocal real quick.
There is nothing left in my heart, and escaping to your arms is all I want. 'Cause all the pain that I've known.
So again, some reverb on the vocals. I don't think I'm using a bus here. Right, so it's a different reverb than the guitars. What I mean by that is that, you know, I could take these two guitars and this vocal or anything I want and just put them into a bus and put them in the same reverb so that they sound like they're in the same room. This is something I started doing that I just found out about maybe a year ago, but the way I used to mix and the way I mix this song is that I like to add different plugins to each track and sort of mix a track on its own and make it sound good afterwards with the rest of the song. It's just a different approach to mixing. You can see that I have, you know, the silver verb here on almost every track, and another way to do that would be to, you know, group these tracks here, send them all, well, not group the tracks, but send them all to a single reverb unit so that they sort of all sound like they're in the same acoustic space. But this was not really the goal of the song. I just wanted to, you know, the guitars to sound a certain way, the vocals to sound a certain way, and that's why I did that. So the first half of the song is what it is. It's a very minimalist, you know, one or two guitars plus a vocal. It's quite ordinary, and the part that's most interesting, in my opinion, is when we get towards the end. That's when you have more guitars. That's when you have a little electric guitar here, a lot of vocals, which is a signature of anything that I write. It always has a lot of vocals towards the end or something like that. Or in general, if you've listened to Bad Captain, which was my first band about a decade ago, there's a lot of vocals in there. I've always loved doing that. And then there's a bunch of software instruments. So let's look at the vocals first, and then we'll look at the instruments. So actually what I'll do is I'll play the whole end, and then we'll sort of analyze the sections in there.
'Cause all the pain that I've known is gonna swallow me whole. I need change, I have to run away, where all my tears and worries are nothing but distant memories. I need a change, I have to run away. 'Cause all your pain and sorrow will be resolved and no more. I need a change, I have to run away. And all your tears and worries will vanish as you savor your victory. I need a change, I have to run away.
All right, so hopefully my editing skills came in handy, because as I was playing this first part, I actually had a system overload. Now, I mentioned that this is a 10-year-old computer. It's a very powerful 10-year-old computer. It's an 8-core. It's got 28 gigs of RAM or something like that. I'm running an SSD. You know, it's a Frankenstein of a Mac. It's a Hackintosh. But even you know, with that, I had a system overload within Logic, and I'm guessing the reason is because most of these are very heavy. So let's first look at what's going on, and then I'll show you the secret sauce right here. So when we get to the second chorus, instead of just having, you know, this guitar here, they also come in, but then towards the end I have yet another performance that comes in, and if I'm not forgetful or mistaken, this is just the same part that I'm playing another time. So you're just going to hear them fade in. That's why I opened this here. They sort of fade in. So it's just another layer of guitars that I wanted to put in that's a little bit more hard panned, that's got even more reverb, and it just adds more depth, more complexity to the guitar part. So this is the other doubling part. And here's the main one. And adding layers is something that I really like doing. Another video that I can link above or in the description is my sort of electric guitar layering video that I did last summer, and it's, in my opinion, one of the most basic recording tricks you can use to create depth and to create just this sort of wall of sound. You know, I think Led Zeppelin used to do that a lot. And you can, if you look online, you'll find a bunch of hit records that do that with either vocals or with, guitars. And it's just a way of feeling like you have a section of instruments rather than just a solo instrument. And so that's why I like to record something once, and then I record it one or, two more times, and then another time and another time. And I like to just use those, pan them left and right, and create this, more deeper, richer sound with that. So in the chorus here, you have the electric guitar that comes in, which is just a simple plug-in with a little simple part. I didn't want to have that much electric guitar in that song, so I just have that one part. It's really subtle. You can barely hear it, but soloed it sounds like this. So with the other guitars, again, just to add more depth, more richness, and more just, harmonic goodness to the song. So the vocals, the way I did the vocals is that I have my lead vocal here. It's not doubled or anything. It's just this one kind of minimalist lead vocal. I did it twice, I think, and this was the best out of the 2 takes. So I just decided to go with that and use that. And then what I did is that I recorded a bunch of back vocals. These are all single takes, and I just either move away from the mic or side to side and just sing in a different way, and I sing different harmonies. So let's look at the lead vocal, and then we'll add these vocals and sort of analyze the harmonies and see what that sounds like. So let's go with the lead vocal here.
Nothing but distant memories.
Let's start with these.
I
First, this is the low
need a change.
harmony.
I have to run away.
So it's kind of a call and response. You have the back.
'Cause all your pain and sorrow will be resolved and no more.
And here you have the lead.
I need a change. I have to run away.
So that's what I call the low back. So it's the lowest harmony. Then I have a mid, so mid left and mid right. So it's going to be a bit higher in the harmony.
'Cause all your pain and sorrow,
right? So
will be resolved and no more.
Kind of in the range of the lead
I
vocal.
need.
And then I have a higher harmony. So I'm just singing the chords, basically. So it goes like this.
'Cause all your pain and sorrow,
you can hear it's higher,
will be resolved and no more.
So all 3 together, they sound like this.
'Cause all your pain and sorrow will be resolved and no more. I need.
Right? So, and then what I did for the second part is that I added even more of the same. So low far, mid far, and right far. So essentially what I did is that I re-recorded those same low, mid, and high harmonies, but a bit further from the mic and just singing in a different style, shouting maybe, so not too worried about pitch or anything like that, just to add, again, more depth, more richness to the whole sound. So Let's have a listen at just the what I call the far back vocals.
Fears and worries will vanish as you savor your victory. Fears and worries will vanish as you savor your victory.
So obviously a lot wetter in terms of reverb. I don't know what exactly they're going into, but see, these ones are kind of dry, but these ones I think they have a lot more reverb. Yeah, so a bit more verb in that sense, and I'm singing a bit further away. I have the right track selected. There you go, this makes more sense. So they're right here. So if you look at the reverb, right, it's almost 50-50 in terms of wet-dry, and the size is a bit bigger as well. So there we go, the right tracks are selected here. And altogether they create this sort of wall of harmonies that I always love doing whenever I can.
Fears and worries will vanish as you savor your victory.
So it's definitely a lot. It's not something you want to use all the time, but in this case, it really was well suited for this part right here. So, you know, going from very minimalistic to this sort of hopeful choir in the background that's sort of telling this guy, you know, don't worry, you know, do what you got to do, and your tears and worries will be history and all that. So if you're curious to know the idea of this song, there's a song that I had with Bad Captain that was quite popular, and that song is called "The Future Waits." So that song was our most popular song. It's the one we ended all of our shows with, and it's got 100,000 views on YouTube, which for a small band like us was a huge deal. And when the time came to write the second Bad Captain album, I wanted to sort of write a follow-up song that was kind of like a prequel. You know, I'm probably into Star Wars too much, but I wanted to write a song that depicted how that person felt before The Future Waits. So this one's called Run Away, and in the end of Future Waits, it's, you know, you'll walk away from your problems and whatever and all that. You know, it's I was 22, all right. But this song has an exact sort of kind of an encore or a wink to the Future Waits, and I'll play just a part of the Future Waits, and you'll have a better idea of what I mean. But that was taken directly from that song, so I found it kind of cool that you had the song that I put out about 10 years ago, and then this new song that's sort of calls back to those old days. And actually, a few people noticed, and that's something I just like doing there. All right, so let's look at the software instruments. There's a bunch. There's brass, there's French horns, there's more brass, there's a couple strings, more brass, some piano, and then a couple more instruments that we'll look at. So I will unsolo this and we'll look at the different instruments. Most of these are actually Spitfire libraries. I have Albion 5. It's the only Spitfire library that I have, but I love using it. So we'll have a listen to that. There's some brass. This is just basic French horns from Logic, and then we'll look at the other instruments. So let's just listen at the whole instrument section here, and we'll analyze it from there. So the brass here is taken from Spitfire. Like I said, it's part of Albion 5. Let's have a listen.
It's all your pain and song.
So very simple, just 2-3 notes, and then there's sort of a climax that happens, right? See the velocity here just going up and up and up to the climax, and then just sort of winding down at the end of the song. Same thing with the other French horns. Doesn't sound remotely as good as the Spitfire stuff, but in the mix, it kind of adds this nice gritty touch. Then a low brass. Also have some strings taken from the same library, and I just love Albion 5 because it's got all these little artifacts and it's so soft and amazing. Just hear the strings, how great, how rich this sounds. So amazing. Such an amazing library. You have kind of a pedal here, right here on the C, and up here, and you just have notes following the chords in between, right? Amazing. I also have this piano here. I'm not sure which piano it is, and I'll tell you in a second. This is Labs from Spitfire. If you want to get into software instruments or Spitfire instruments, you don't have a lot of money, this costs $0. So go ahead and download Spitfire Labs. It's an amazing piece of software, and you can hear just the piano here, how cool it sounds. It's going to fade in. With the strings, some brass. Super soft, right? So here we have another piano. This is from Christian Henson. He's an absolutely wonderful composer and creator here on YouTube, and this is one of his free pianos, so let's have a listen at that. So this is a Play-O piano with a pad on top of it, and I think I'm just using the pad patch at this point. Not sure what this is. Let's have a listen. Ooh. Okay, so this is a great trick from Christian Henson, where he, in one of his videos, or one of the Spitfire videos, he shows that when he wants to enhance strings, he likes to put just a basic wave on top of it, and you know, a way to do that would be just to open EXS24 and use the basic first patch when you open the plugin. So, right, super deep and rich, and I just use that to add some sub bass. Then we have some drums. We have some snares here that I programmed kind of loosely, didn't really quantize them or anything like that, because I wanted it to be sort of loose and all over the place in the background. So these are sort of performed on the keyboard, if you will. And I didn't want them to play exactly the same thing, so you have this sort of, because they're hard panned, you have this sort of feeling where it travels from left to right. And then a bass drum. So all the software instruments together. Piano comes in, right? Low brass, French horns, the brass, more strings, and then at the end there's this one last note. All the software instruments right there. So that's all the software instruments. Let's add some of the vocals, and we'll add the guitars and all that, and we'll wrap this up, because that's pretty much all I did to this track. In terms of mixing and EQ, to be honest, I just use what I think sounds best. You can see that sometimes there's some very dramatic EQs, sometimes there's some that are a bit more subtle, and I don't feel comfortable giving that many tips on how to, EQ or mix or anything like that, because to be honest, it will come as you practice. It's something that I've sort of developed my own technique, and I'm not even sure I have a technique at this point, because I'm just, working with what I have and sort of working with what sounds best. And to be honest, it's kind of good enough. If you're going to put this out on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, or any of the streaming platforms out there, SoundCloud, or whatever you want, if you're mixing this one single, this is kind of my point to show you that you can do it yourself, and that you can probably do something that sounds almost as good as what any other professional engineer could do. Granted, it might not have the same levels as a top 40 hit or anything like that, but it's good enough for somebody to enjoy on iTunes or Apple Music or whatnot. A couple notes about any special plugins that I'm using. You can see that there's some pitch shifting in some cases, because the song is not exactly in tune. It's in C major, but it's kind of below just a couple, not even like kind of a quarter tone under C. So there's a lot of pitch shifting here, just to it's actually above. So it's 27 cents above an actual C. And the reason is pretty simple. I didn't have a tuner, and I tuned by ear, and I just went with that. So almost every software instrument has some pitch shifting at some point, just to make it sound more in tune. But that's part of it. So it's not exactly in C. It's a little bit above that. Otherwise, a lot of the plugins I use are the plugins that you will get with Logic: Silververb, Channel EQ, Pitch Shifter. There's not that much more special stuff. I do have a couple of Waves plugins, a couple of Brainworks plugins, but you can see that I'm not using J37 tape. This is a Waves plugin. Not even using it here. The only thing I'm using is the Brainworks meter, which just shows me my levels. Make sure everything's sort of in phase, and just to make sure I have a level that's competitive enough. And the best way to do that is just to have a limiter and just pump your mix. That's something. Where's my limiter? It's here. So I just pumped my mix a little bit, added 6 extra decibels just to make it loud enough, not clipping or anything like that. If I take it off, you'll see that it's actually a lot quieter. If I add my limiter back in, a little bit louder, just so that if somebody stumbles upon the song in Spotify or Apple Music, they don't feel like it's not mixed by a professional. The song is loud enough, and it's competitive with other music that you will find on those platforms. Otherwise, it's EQ, some compressor, basic plugins, and I just made sure that it sounded good enough for me. So let's have a last listen at this here, and I'll wrap it up, and we'll take it from there.
All your tears and worries will vanish as you savor your victory. I need a change. I have to run away.
So a very simple song, acoustic guitar, some vocals, and some extra software instruments, basic plugins. All in all, this took me maybe 2 mixing sessions to complete. And if you accumulate all the work that went into this, it was probably 3 days work. But I'm talking not actual days, as in 24 hours or 8 hours. It was 3 sessions. So one session to record, and then 2 or 3 sessions to mix, and then I was done. Once that was done, I bounced it, and then I uploaded it to CD Baby, which takes care of publishing the song to all the platforms, and that's pretty much it. So the point of this video, to be honest, is to show you how simple it is Granted, this is a simple song in itself. You know, there's no drum set here, so and there's not a lot of stuff going on. But if you want to release music or acoustic music, or even if you just want to, you know, release EDM or anything like that, I wanted to show you this video just to show you that even when you're not a professional, you're just a passionate musician who wants to record and release stuff, you can do it yourself. You can do it in GarageBand. I've done it for years and years. Or you can do it in Logic, where you have a bit more control. But there's nothing, you know, there's nothing magical happening here. It's just a bunch of EQs and a little bit of compressor and sort of a mastering chain with a limiter that just makes your mix a bit louder. You just have to make sure that nothing's clipping, everything sounds good to you, and then you're good to go. To be honest, a lot of this is practice, a lot of this is experience. I've been mixing my own demos for more than a decade, and this is kind of the best that I can do at the moment. If you think it's crap, let me know in the comments. Again, I'll send you the multi-track and maybe you can mix it yourself. If you think it's awesome, you can let me know. You can go listen to the song on iTunes and Spotify. You can also subscribe to my channel or leave a like on your way out. That's always appreciated. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.